Good morning, everyone. This is Saif Ahmed Buyan. I'm the head of content of the Nordic IT Security Summit. I'm sitting in Stockholm, and today we have Brad Johnson with us. Hello, Brad. How are you?
I am well. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'll try to match your energy, but I don't know how much I can. But let's just do it. I'm really excited to have you, and we're having this interview regarding the upcoming event that we're going to have in May the 25th in Stockholm Waterfront Congress Center, and there Brett is joining us in person to have our epitome keynote, workshop, and much more. But today we're going to talk about something really interesting. So I'm really glad to have Brett on board with us. So Brett, could you please introduce yourself a little bit?
So, introduce myself. Sure, the United States Secret Service, they called me the original internet godfather. Now, how did I get that title? In my case, 39 felonies because 38 just wasn't enough. I was placed on the United States Most Wanted list. I escaped from prison. Yes, I did. And if that weren't enough, I also built and ran the first organized cybercrime community. It was called Shadow Crew. It was a precursor of today's darknet and darknet markets. It laid the foundation for the way modern cybercrime channels operate today. Those 39 felonies that I mentioned had to do with refining modern financial cybercrime. Yes, that will get one sent to prison. And Saeed, usually the story ends at that point. But I was very fortunate through my sister, through my wife, Michelle, and then finally the FBI. I was given the opportunity to turn my life around, and I took it. Today, I'm a good guy. I did. I'm a good guy these days. I speak across the planet. I work with the largest companies on earth, and I take my job very seriously, protecting businesses and individuals from the type of attacker that I used to be.
Brilliant. So I would like to start with the most interesting part, what is the motive of a person to get into these waters? I mean, you have an interesting phrase for that mice, right? Money, ideology, conscience, and ego. How would you divide the motive into 4 parts? Is that all the same, or is it something ahead of the others?
So talking about online crime, understanding that all attackers are not the same, and all attackers are not looking for the same thing. And we use the so mice is not my anagram. That belongs to the CIA. I've just kind of co-opted it. It stands for money, ideology, conscience, and ego. Those tend to be the 4 motivators that motivate anyone. All right. So looking at an online attacker, attacks typically happen because of status, cash, ideology. All right. So depending on who the attacker is, and there's only really 7 different types of attackers online. You've got criminals like I used to be. You've got nation states. You've got hacktivists, terrorists, insiders, hackers for hire, and then finally script kiddies. Take a criminal like I used to be. What motivates someone like me? Well, typically it's cash, but it's not always cash. Ego is involved with that. I may look at a specific brand name or a company and figure, hey, if I attack them successfully, I can impress my criminal peers. So there's a degree of ego that's involved. Or maybe there's a target that's out there, a potential victim that I don't agree with them politically. So it's not only cash-based, but it's also a degree of ideology that's involved as well. All right. So figure out who the attacker is and why they're attacking you. What's motivating that attacker primarily? Is it primarily cash? Was it just cash? Or is it a degree of ideology as well? That will tell you how persistent that type of attack is. For example, a cash-based attack, someone who's just looking for money, that tends to be just the lowest hanging fruit. That attacker is looking for the easiest access that gives them the largest return on that criminal attack. So it's lowest hanging fruit if it's only a cash-based attack. But if it's got a degree of ideology mixed into it, if that criminal is just upset at that specific company, it becomes much more persistent at that point. It's not just about cash anymore. It's about showing that victim a lesson, doing something to cause that specific victim harm. So figure out what the motivations are of the criminal. Is it money, ideology, conscience, ego, and what degree to each one? You'll know what the persistence of the attack is, and then you can design security around that type of persistent attack.
So you have to follow some sort of pattern, in terms of to understand what kind the attack can be the next.
Always.
Always. Okay. Because it was really interesting to understand it's not just about money, but also ego. And that's one of the major drivers to actually cause these attacks.
Absolutely.
So, wow. So moving to the next one, so I would like to ask, let's talk about e-criminals. What is the ultimate motive of the attack? Some say it is not always about money, but there are other valuable things such as information, data. But doesn't all that seek a final commercial purpose, or it to be more precise, when all that intel be monetized in one way or another?
Well, I think it's important to understand that criminals, they know the good guys tend to operate in siloed environments, that each independent vertical works within its own to secure itself, with the idea that if each silo is secure, that everyone is secure across the board. Criminals have understood that for years, and as such, they tend to defraud each silo based on its own merits, chain those attacks together, and then look at a final target to defraud. All right. Criminals are ultimately looking for profit, but it's not an attack is not always a cash-based attack. They're not always looking for cash. Criminals look for one of four things: information, access, data, or finally cash. So information, what can I find out about you or your organization? Can I do a social engineering attack and get you to give me the names of your fraud team so that then I can target them specifically? All right, so what type of information can I get? Access. Can I get you to give me remote access to your machines? Can I get you to plug in a thumb drive in your network? And the answer is typically I can. For example, we've done tests before dropping a thumb drive into a parking lot, and someone will always pick it up. Will someone plug it in? Yes, someone will always plug it in. And if there's a file that's marked anything to do with salary or pay, someone will always open up the file. So access, data. Do you have data that I can breach into the company, steal the data, resell on the black market, or do you have data that I can lock down that data and hold it for ransom, or do you have both? And then finally, cash. Figure out where you are in that criminal spectrum, what that criminal is looking for from your environment. Design security around that.
So, is it obvious that the economic and geopolitical situations are in their favor? But to what limit does it go? Is it only ideologies for certain organizations, or even states ready to hire or create hackers because of their hidden motives?
That's very interesting that you ask that. Right now we're going through the Ukraine war. And as we said at the top of this interview, there are no really black and white motivations. It's always a mixture of things. All right. And right now we're really seeing that. If you think about who's winning this war, criminals or the good guys, first of all, you've got jurisdictional problems. You've got sometimes criminals are in an area where you cannot prosecute them and they're not going to extradite them. So they're able to just commit whatever crime they want to without consequence or fear of consequence. So you've got that issue. You've got the internet itself that lends itself to a degree of anonymity. It's very easy to remain anonymous online if you use the proper software, if you know how to practice what criminals call operational security. But you've also got manpower problems. For example, in the United States, the FBI has 37,000 field agents spread across 56 different field offices. That's a lot of agents. But out of those 37,000 agents, only about 200 of them concentrate on cybercrime. Meanwhile, you've got criminal environments that are millions of members large. So the numbers are not really in our favor either. You add all those things together, and it creates an environment for crime that looks very, very successful. Now you add in things like the Ukraine war, where you've got governments that are telling the criminals that are in their countries, hey, do whatever you want to against our enemies. We're going to harbor you, we're going to protect you, and we're going to even help facilitate this crime. You don't have to worry. So all of a sudden, you've got criminals that are typically motivated primarily by cash that now have an ideological slant that's coming in pretty strong as well. And that becomes problematic because those types of attacks, it used to be that a cash-based attack, if that was the primary type of attack, you could really finger who the targets were. You know who the targets are on these cash-based types of attacks. But because you're now looking at an ideological type of slant with that attack, now you're looking at infrastructure that's being hit. How can you profit through infrastructure? Well, at the end of the day, you can. Or you're looking at government offices and agencies that are being hit as well because of that ideological slant. So you've got that mixture of things, and it's a really dangerous environment right now, and it's really not going to get any better anytime soon.
Well, that's scary, to be honest.
It is.
Because if government is actually helping to facilitate this sort of attacks, well, then it is dangerous.
Right.
All right. So I don't know how much you know about but in Scandinavian countries have recently had problems with the so-called anonymous pseudonym group. Since the background of the attacks is the application to join the NATO alliance and the excess with the burning of the Quran. So my question is, as for terrorists, they generally want it to be known that they stand behind something because of their, ideology, what it could be, whatever it is. But is this the same case with e-terrorists? And is that always the background for them, or do they simply want to convey the message that no one is safe?
Well, as a terrorist, you want to disrupt, cause chaos, spread fear, but you also want to make sure that your specific message is getting across. That's absolutely true. You want to do that. If you can cause fear throughout an environment, that fear creates distrust of the platform that you're using, also of the country that's trying to protect its people. So you get a lot of distrust, a lot of fear. So that's definitely one of the primary motivations of e-terrorism. Understanding what we've been talking about from the top of this interview, this mice type of concept, that it's never just one primary motivation. It's never just terrorists that are trying to spread their specific ideology. It's never that. You also have to finance that stuff. So especially with e-terrorism, you're looking at a mixture of causing fear, disruption, spreading chaos, breaking things, and also trying to profit at the same time. All right. So you're trying to disrupt and destroy while spreading your message, while, hey, we've got to finance these types of attacks as well. So you've got this mixture of things coming in. And this goes back to this mice principle that we talked about at the beginning. What degree of which one of those is most important? Well, with terrorists, it's the ideology. It's always going to be the ideology that's the number one primary motivator. But is there a degree of ego that's involved? Maybe, depending on that specific attacker, maybe. Conscience, absolutely. Conscience is involved because a lot of these attackers they really believe the ideology that they're trying to spread throughout the world through fear and destruction. But cash is also in there as well. That money is in there because, they have to eat, they have to finance these operations, they have to buy the online tools to launch the attacks and things like that. So it's never just a primary motive. It's always a mixture of these four things. Figure out what the primary one is, and you're able to see who the attacker is all of a sudden. And you're also able to see the persistence of the attack. And again, you design security around that.
Wow. But how, feasible it is in terms of how can you actually scale this up and to protect your organization, for example? Is there any sort of ideas? As you said, we have to know, but how do we know, for example?
I think the way you know is you have to understand your place in that cybercrime spectrum, because everyone has a specific place. The way that an attacker will victimize or seek to victimize you absolutely depends on who you are and what you do. So if you can understand your place in that cybercrime spectrum, you can understand who those potential attackers are. Do you have a brand that is very well known? Well, all of a sudden you're looking at people who are trying to attack you because of ego, because it will impress their criminal peers. Do you have a company that's located in a country that is not allied with specific other countries, and because of that, everyone in that country is angry at you? Well, all of a sudden you're looking at an ideological type of attack that's coming in. So you figure out where you are in that cybercrime spectrum. Figure out what that specific criminal is looking to get from you: information, access, data, or cash. If you know that, if you understand your business or yourself well enough, you know where you are in that. And let me tell you, everyone has a place in the cybercrime spectrum. The way that you will be victimized absolutely depends on who you are and what you do, both as an individual and as an organization. Understand that, embrace that, design security around that.
Brilliant. All right. So at the very end, the most important. So considering that this is the fight of our time, we must know the current state of cybercrime. And does our fight stand a chance for a safe future? To be more direct, have we entered an endless war in which we will always have to be ready to defend ourselves?
Well, I mean, it seems like that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
cybercrime right now, if it were a country, it would have the third largest economy on the planet. So the numbers continue to explode. The profit continues to go up. I mean, it seems like it's something that we are not going to win, but I really don't believe that. I really don't. Now, at the end of the day, you can't stop everything, but understand that that threat landscape that's out there, it's not really sophisticated. It's not populated with massive amounts of zero-day attacks and unknown vulnerabilities. Attackers really don't use those. The problem is that 90% plus of every single attack uses known exploits. It's the stuff that we know about, the stuff that we've been potentially told about for years that we've not done anything about, that creates a lot of the problem. So if you want to know how you do this, you listen to the experts that are out there. You pay attention when we say, hey, you need to make sure these ports are shut down so that you don't allow remote access to your machines. That would have stopped a lot of the NotPetya attack that happened a few years ago. So you pay attention to that. You close down that threat landscape by taking care of the stuff that we know about that we should be taking care of. So that's number one. You also need to understand that we need to take a proactive approach to cybersecurity and cybercrime. Right now, we're reactive. We continue to react to every single attacker that's out there. We need to anticipate these types of attacks and take a proactive response. We need to collaborate with each other, share and exchange information. One of the things that's criminals are very good about is being open sourced across the board. They share targets, they share tools, they share information with each other, understanding that if everyone is more educated in that environment, everyone is more profitable at the end of the day. And that's something that the good guys are still not really good about, because of privacy concerns, regulations, and then finally competitive edges. But we have to get where we're sharing and we're open about information. At that point, everyone is more secure. And at that point, everyone can be more proactive towards stopping these types of attacks. It's about developing situational awareness, understanding that there are predators online. There are attackers online. We're very good in the physical world about having situational awareness. We see countries that have been attacked by terrorists. They've designed physical security where those countries now are extremely safe. We need to get to where we're in that same type of idea, that mindset online, where we know that there are predators out here in our environments. We design security where everything is very safe and effective. We can get to that point. I believe we are absolutely going to get to that point, but we just need to make the choice and the decision to do so.
So you would say that we have to look into a pattern here and to study that to make sure, we understand our territory, as you mentioned earlier, to have that safety that we're looking for, and then we should be fine, and people should do what they're supposed to do.
Absolutely. Right now, it's almost like right now we wait to be attacked, and then we do something about it. That is the wrong mindset. That's the wrong philosophy to have. We should understand that, hey, these attacks are going to happen. Don't just wait for them. They're going to happen. And if we know that, if we accept that, then we can prepare for the attack and prepare to mitigate the attack out the gate. Like I said, you're not going to stop every single attack, but you can stop 95, 99% of the attacks that are out there. You can absolutely do that. And you can take a large bite of that cybercrime environment and just mitigate it, stop it right out of the gate.
Brilliant. So Brad, thank you so very much for joining us today. So it was very insightful, very interesting. The things you've mentioned, how the ideology work and how a cyber criminal thinks before actually choosing their victims and to attack whatever it is, if it is a country, an organization, or even personal. So there are motivations, as you mentioned, the mice.
Saeed, I am looking forward to it. Stockholm, here I come. Register now. Come on down to the conference. You don't want to miss this.